Hi, my name's Ellen Sullivan, and I'm the owner of Cambridge Immigration Law, an immigration law firm in Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Immigration is the topic of discussion today, and immigration is overall such an integral aspect of this 2024 election. But before we get started on talking about the main candidate policy platforms, I was hoping you could provide some context for our listeners as to where we are when it comes to immigration in the country.
So, in terms of where we are with immigration, as an immigration lawyer, I feel like we're in a much better place than we were under the Trump administration. But except for that sort of anomalous period during my career, immigration is just always there. Immigration is a part of American life. It's part of human life. It is something that people do because they want to, and that's okay, and because they need to in many situations. They need to because there's no opportunities where they are. They need to because they need to feed their babies. They need to because they are not safe where they are. And whether they qualify for asylum or not, it's still okay that they need to leave where they're from because that's what we do as humans, as people who want adventures, but who also want safety. So I don't see it as us being in a much different place than I've experienced in my almost 20-year career, except for the period during Trump, which was less about what was really happening with immigration, because immigration happens. It's like the tides, like it happens. It was just very different practicing under Trump than I'd ever experienced before.
So, when it comes to immigration, what
Yeah.
are some of the biggest issues that you see right now, where we are with like the immigration practices here in the country?
I would say, and this is really without planning it, I would say there's like three big issues I can think of right now. One is the reality that people are coming from other countries because they need to. And there's so many reasons why they need to. And in that issue is to so many people coming to the United States, so many are forced to come through the border because there's no legal mechanism for them to come. This whole like wait in line doesn't exist for most people. So, that's just a reality. People are coming right now, and that's because of the forces around the world that makes life, unequal based on where you live, who you are. That's one thing. The second thing is that the immigration laws as we have them are totally outdated. The numbers of certain types of visas haven't been increased in decades, but we all know the worldwide population has increased. So wouldn't it seem like there would be some sort of increase in visa availability? That creates heartbreak for families, and it really creates huge barriers for employers of all sizes to meet the needs of their labor force. We just don't have enough visas for people. The third thing I think right now I see in immigration is just the using immigration as a sort of the scapegoat for I don't even know what we're scapegoating. Basically, like the Trump side is making this country seem like a horrible place to be instead of a great country that it is. And they're blaming everything on immigrants. And so it's just wrong. It's disproportionate, but it's also, it is right that there are people that are suffering a lot and they come to our country through the border. And it's not always right. And it's super dangerous for those people. People are dying in these journeys, are traumatized in these journeys. And yeah, like people living on the border, I'm sure that it feels different. Yeah, it creates a lot of strain on our country because I think the laws are outdated.
Kamala Harris has emphasized that she wants to overhaul this nation's immigration channels, including addressing paths to citizenship, increasing policing and prevention of increased crossings at the border, really wide-spanning reformation that she's looking for if she becomes president. In your opinion, what are some of the highlights or lowlights that you see behind Harris's platform?
I mean, I support her platform. It's not going to be perfect. Nothing is. One of my pet peeves is an immigration fix. There's no immigration fix. There are things that need to be done based on where we are in a particular moment. Like what resets do we need to have? Like what sort of evaluation of reality do we need to have and how do we need to get the laws to catch up to that? Whatever Kamala Harris creates, I think will be motivated by compassion and inclusion, essentially going to not work for some people. Hopefully it works for more people than things are working right now. But when you have rules, there's always people that don't fit quite in, and you're going to have that's going to be good or it's going to be bad. So I think for immigration, for me, and maybe just all government, is what's the motivation behind the changes? And any change, there's always going to be things that aren't going to go right, and you're going to have to be realistic and make some fixes. And so, in terms of like evaluating her entire platform, we would have to deal with evaluating it once it's implemented and seeing how it works.
So then on the other hand, the Trump policy platform has called for a national quelling when it comes to the ongoing immigration at the border, including things like ending birthright citizenship, which is enshrined in the 14th Amendment, mass deportations, and a complete sealing of our southern border. What are some of the issues that you see, or some of the positives you see with Donald Trump's platform?
I couldn't try to give you a redeeming point to his platforms. They're unrealistic on a good practical analysis. They're just unrealistic. How is he going to deport 11 to how many million people he says he's going to deport? What he is going to do is make 11 million and hundreds of millions of people scared, confused, afraid of living and being part of the community, whether they're even non-citizens or not. So that he will do. So unrealistic is sort of a good way to describe it.
Branching off from that, Trump has made some statements as of late in regards to certain immigrant groups. I think most notably, we can call back to the ABC presidential debate where he made a comment that Haitian immigrants, excuse me, were eating the pets and animals of those in Springfield, Ohio. What issues do you make from Trump's statements in specific, not necessarily just to Haitian immigrants, but to immigrants as a whole?
What I've heard specifically about that is the heartbreak that some of these kids have experienced in schools, where most adults know that's a ridiculous statement. But when kids hear that and are taught to treat other children who might be Haitian or somewhere else with hate and fear and disgust, like, I mean, that's heartbreaking to me. The way that this has trickled down to children being like bullied and harassed on the playground, like it's just heartbreaking. Is it any more ridiculous than anything else he says? Probably, but it's just heartbreaking the way that he's made people on a very personal level treat each other with so much immediate hate.
Second to last question. What many Republican legislatures have tried to address an issue that is largely not happening in the country, which is non-citizens voting in voting in elections, excuse me. Again, something that is not enshrined and not permitted here in the United States. What do you think the focus on quote unquote non-citizens voting will do for the country when it comes to immigration?
I mean, I do think it just is another something more to stoke the fire of like, fury against immigrants. I mean, like you said, I haven't seen any data that it's happening. And, if US citizens are so upset about it and all, how these votes may or may not be affecting the elections, then maybe a bigger percentage of eligible voters should actually get up and vote.
And then my last question, is there anything further on this topic that you feel is necessary to reiterate or discuss that I haven't addressed or that we didn't address throughout this interview?
I think not, except, immigration is it's a part of life. As you know, you don't even need to qualify it with any adjectives. Like it is life. It like people move around, people make things better by experiencing different things, bringing their experiences to different places. It's not going away, and it's a big waste of time to act like one, it's a bad thing, and two, there's anything that we can do about the reality that human nature involves movement. And that's a wonderful thing.